Good morning. Hello, everybody. I'm just waiting for everybody to log on and I'm hoping I'm on the right stream here. It's Madhavi. We're going to be looking at your well-being. Now, this is for educators, anyone working in education, but truth be known, this is for all of you. So I know there's lots of parents at home for school holidays at the moment, including myself. So I will also let you know as we go along that I do have 3 children and they're at home with me, and at the moment they're playing with a basketball and a soccer ball and bikes and a whole bunch of other things out there in the backyard, and so I can see them. I'm trying not to be distracted, so please forgive me if I'm interrupted as we go along. So if you've got a pen and paper, just grab it now, because what I'm going to spend some time with you doing is looking at some nice practical wellbeing tools which will help you reset, recharge and recover. So I thought school holidays are the perfect time to grab parents and educators. Anyone working with or living with young people can benefit from this. So I'm just going to give some time for a few of you to join us. It would help me ever so much if you just comment that you're here and that you can hear me, because I'm not a tech person. Anyone who knows me, this is not how I usually roll, but I know that it makes life a lot easier for everybody else. So please let me know if you're there in the comments. Just say hi, give me a thumbs up that you can actually hear me. And I'm going to give you a couple of moments to grab paper and pen. I hope you're having such a beautiful day. I'm here in South Australia with our 3 children on school holidays and the sun is shining. We've just taken the dog for a walk. It's been really lovely. Hello, Kerry. I'm so glad. Thank you for the thumbs up there. So that means you can see me. Hi, Lydia. Lovely to have you all here. So we're going to get started. So we're looking at well-being. I mentioned earlier, these are all practical tools. I'm going to give you a handful to get you started. I don't want to overload you, but my plan is to come back on here when I get an opportunity to share more tools and tips for you. So what I want you to remember is, although this is titled Educator Wellbeing, if you're a parent, if you're a carer of other people, really if you're a human, these tools are going to work for you. So a lot of people have asked me, why did you pick educators, Madhavi? What about us? What about all of these other fields of work? You know, education is an area I've worked in for over 2 decades now, and so it's what I know. I see every day how incredibly hard people work in education. There's really a unique flavour to this kind of work. I've worked in schools with families, with children, with teachers, with principals, with SSOs, with the admin, with everybody in schools, and what I see is it's very similar. Yes, absolutely. If you're a parent, and as a parent of 3 children myself, I think, you know, any context where you need to care for another person potentially puts your well-being at risk, doesn't it? Because when we look after others, you know what cost are we looking after others? Quite often caring for another human being means it's very difficult to set aside time to care for yourself. And so all of our well-being is at risk when part of our responsibility, whether it's a work responsibility, a life responsibility, part of being a person, a responsibility, as soon as someone else's care is paramount in our lives, then we need to be really, really sure that we're doing things every day. So not every week, not every 6 years, not every decade when we're burnt out and run down. As often as possible, we have got to find time, preferably every day, to just do something for yourself. And I know this is hard because I work full-time school hours. So that means when our children are at school, we now have 3 at school. Up until a year ago, I still have our youngest at home. I know it's really hard, and then outside of school hours, I'm being a mum and also running a business and doing all of that, you know, once they go to bed again. So, you know, it is hard, but I'm trying really hard, and I hope you will too, to find micro moments every day. And that's exactly what, and I know how many of you are waiting. Oh gosh, it all comes in reverse here. I'm really not tech anything. I hope you can see that. That's why I wrote this book. That's why it's so practical. Yes, it's evidence-based, but it's just super, super duper practical. It's about taking a tip. There should be 2 or 3 tips per page per day that you can take, and I'm going to share some of those with you now. So when we're looking at what well-being is, if we look at a basic Oxford Dictionary definition, we're looking at a state of being comfortable, healthy, or happy. So I want you to just take a moment and ask yourself, are you comfortable? Are you feeling healthy? Are you feeling reasonably happy? Now, none of us are happy all the time. That is unrealistic. Nobody's optimistic and positive all the time. That is unrealistic. We're supposed to feel a broad spectrum of emotions, and that's completely healthy. But I want you to think overall, as you care for others, and I know how it works in education, having worked in education for over 20 years, and I know how it works as a parent, having parented for over 14 years, that it's even hard to ask ourselves these questions. And yet for healthy well-being, it's really important to develop a habit that you check in with yourself several times a day and you just notice your mood. Notice your mood, notice how your body feels, and ask yourself, am I feeling comfortable? And when I do this with teams, when I do this with parents, most people regrettably will say, I don't feel comfortable a lot of the time. I feel like I'm desperately trying to catch up. I feel like I have so many things that I need to get done and I have no idea how I'm going to fit them all in, and I'm feeling overwhelmed a lot of the time. So I want you to ask yourself, hi Nicole, hi, more people coming through there. So I want you to take a moment to ask yourself how you're feeling right now. And if you're not feeling comfortable, and if you reflect back and you're not feeling comfortable, and you might be on school holidays, so you might be feeling more comfortable, or some of you might be feeling less comfortable. So that will change. Our well-being, our resilience, they go up and down and around and about several times really in a day, and across periods of weeks and months and years. It will change depending on the context of our life and what's going on. But overall, we need to make sure that every single day we're doing something to reset, to recharge and to recover, or we're going to get sick. We're not going to get enough sleep. We're not going to be well physically or mentally, and then we're going to be looking after everyone else except ourselves. So this is a daily habit that we all want to start to make time to do. Small steps, practical steps. The ones you like, take them. The ones you don't. So let's have a look at how we're going to take our well-being and put it in the front seat. I've taken notes because I know I have a tendency to go into lots of detail and cover more than people really want to hear. So I want to keep this short, sharp and shiny. I'll try. Let's see how I go. So the first thing I want to talk about is multitasking. Hands up if you're a multitasker. I have had that habit throughout my lifetime, and I think when you're in any role where you care for others, in any role where you're working, when you are carrying a mental load, you might have a whole bunch of things that go on in your head all day long. It is so easy to find yourself multitasking, and multitasking it's not even a real thing. It's called task shifting, right? We can't multitask. We cannot do one thing properly while doing multiple other things. And it's really hard. I can only go from my experience. Your experience is going to be different. I'm not seeing any hands up for multitasking. So I really hope I'm not the only person that's battling this. I'm guessing I'm not. But if you are multitasking, it might be for me as a working parent and also a person that has people to care for in my life. It means a matter of opening up a letter, right, while also washing the dishes and possibly being on a phone call. It's all of these things, and then a child will come in through the door and ask a question, and you love them more than life itself, and you want to support and help them, but at the same time, you also need to open that letter, and you're trying to get the other thing done. So it doesn't exist. We know for a fact that multitasking is a lie. It's not healthy for us. It's terrible for our well-being. And that is my number one priority. For me, that's what I'm working on, right? So I just pick one thing at a time. So when I go through these tools with you this morning, or for those of you who are coming in from overseas this evening, when we go through these tips, remember, don't do them all at once. So, throughout my book, the Educator Wellbeing book, which is also for parents and anybody that has to care, that cares for others, and anyone that wants some tools for wellbeing, there's hundreds of ideas in there and hundreds of practical tools. Don't go and go, right, I'm doing all of this. This is it. I'm cleaning up. I'm doing it. Just pick one. Just pick one thing. And for me at the moment in my life, I am trying really hard to stop task shifting, also known as multitasking, right? Because what we know is that every time we do that, we're not doing anything properly. We're not doing anything fully, and we're supporting our brain to believe that this is okay. Because everything we do is neurologically wiring our brain with a set of beliefs and a set of habits. And so hello, Yvonne, you huge multitasker there with me. It's hard. And you know what it is? It's because we're all predominantly doing too much. We're just doing too much. And I think this is the challenge for me, and I can only speak for my challenge, which is having the most beautiful life in so many ways and having so many beautiful supports in place. And I'm also a working parent, and I'm a writer, and the writing part is at nighttime when my children are asleep. So writing at night and switching on the brain, and I love writing, and I love giving, information from 20 years of working in this field. So that is the only reason why that works for me, friends, right? This would not work for me. If I was a writer because I wanted to be a writer, but I didn't love writing, it would not work for me. It would be like working. But for me, I've loved writing and talking since I was born, since I was a kid, and throughout my adulthood. So the only reason it works for me is I love sharing the stuff that's worked for me and for kids and adults that I've worked with over the last 2 decades. So writing at night is okay for me, but it is hard because I'm really tired. So what that might mean, in order to get to the writing bit once our children are in bed, I need to do all my other jobs, and I multitask. It's bad and I want to stop doing it, and I've reduced it significantly over the last couple of months, and I'm going to get so good at this that I'm not task shifting anymore. So how do you do it, beautiful people? How you do it is you just make a conscious commitment, write a note on your fridge or wherever you're going to see it every day. No more task shifting. Now, does that mean that that's going to be the end of it? No, absolutely not, because habits take a long time to undo. You see, every day that we were opening those letters while having a conversation, talking on the phone and washing the dishes or whatever you were doing, every time we're doing that, we are sending ourselves the signal, oh, this is what you do. This is how you do life. This is how you live. And this is not healthy for us. It drains us and it keeps us in a state of overwhelmed, and we never feel like we've completed everything. And so we want to slow down. And before I continue on with this whole task shifting, ditching the multitasking, which is multitasking is task shifting. It's just going from one thing to the next thing, back to the other thing. Before I go on about that, do remember there's a really great way. If you're doing too much, you can complete a project by ditching it, right? Now, it's hard, but these boundaries are crucial. And I share in my work with parents supporting their well-being and educators supporting their well-being is just because we're asked to do something, if it's at a cost to our well-being and we are the ones staying up till all hours or not sleeping, then we're not going to be able to help and support the people we care for. anymore. So I've learned this. So I've got past that. That was one of my goals last year, was learning to set boundaries on how much I say yes to. I want to say yes to everything because I literally live and work from love, completely from love. And I love what I do. And so when I know someone is suffering, I can't ignore it, right? I can't ignore it. So when my inbox is full and my Facebook page is full and all of this is full, and then, you know, my job and my parenting, which is, you know, I'll be honest with you, my number one priority is our family. And so I find it very hard to say no when someone's in need, but at what cost? So I've got to keep going, right? And so do you, beautiful people, because I know you're working just as hard, if not harder than I am. In fact, probably much harder than I am. So last year's thing was, how do I say no? And the way I say no now is with love, because I'm using my strengths. And this came from a good friend and colleague of mine, Jodie Benveniste, who I get to have some lovely chats and coffees with, and we were talking about this, and she gave a beautiful tip which I share, which is use your strengths when you're saying no, and one of my strengths is love. And so when I can't do something, I just say I really want to do it, because I do. So I don't have to lie, I don't have to make anything up. I just simply say, I really want to do this. I really want to be there and speak at this, or write this, or work with you right now. I really, really do. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart for asking me. And I'd really love it if we can check in again in 3 or 4 months or a year from now and see if we can do it then. And we can't say no to everything. And some things we need to do because we're carers and supporters and human beings. But pick how much you're saying yes to, because once you're saying yes to so much that it's impacting on your well-being, your sleep, your quality of life, that's when you're going to pay the price. And you know, that price varies. I've worked with families and the cost has been irreversible. And that is when my heart breaks in 100,000 pieces, is when people have made mistakes, when they've had the red flags in front of them, and the price has been irreversible. And because of the kind of work I do, I see a lot every day in grave detail. And so at what price are we going to run ourselves into the ground and do too much? And so it is absolutely crucial that we take this opportunity. Those of you who are on school holidays and you're educators, those of you who are parents and carers and people that are carrying and doing volunteers more than you should be doing, we have to pause, because there will be a price. And some of these come at a cost that we cannot reverse and we can't take back. And we've all got red flags staring at us, and we see them. And we have to see every single little thing that goes wrong. Every time we forget something important, every time, there was a time when I was juggling a lot of things and things that I needed to juggle. Sometimes life is like that, and you can't go, right, well, all I'm going to focus on is parenting, or we can't, right? Just focus on one thing, because we carry so many roles in our lives, don't we? And sometimes our lives are just heavy and they carry a lot of stuff. And in those times, I remember a time like that, and we all have them. And I started to drive off with my boot open still. And someone's calling out to me to tell me, your boot is still open. And, I've got all the kids in, they're all in. I've never left them behind. Everyone's buckled in, but the boot's open. And I thought, this is what I always ask myself. Every time something like that happens, I ask myself, what is this moment telling me? And that's all in this book, how to look at those things. But there's one of the tips is, what is this telling me? And I said to her, what is this telling me? It's telling me, slow down. You're doing too much. So back to this multitasking, task shifting thing. when you're doing too much, I want you to ask yourself, and we don't have time to do it now because I'm trying to be really polite in your times. I know that you've given aside some time here to be with me, so I'm trying not to take too much of your time. But ask yourself, what can I drop? What am I doing right now that I can drop, that I just don't need to be doing now, that I can come back to, that I can set a loving boundary on and let them, if someone else needs it from me, that I can say, I really want to do this. I really, really do. And I can't right now. And I hope you can forgive me. And I hope we can do it another time. So take that opportunity when you get one of those little tiny, and they're the little red flags, right? But they're still red flags. So ask yourself now, what can I drop? You know, what am I doing right now that is not helpful to my well-being that I can stop? Or if you can't stop it, because we all have things that are stressful, all of us, every one of us, no matter how it's looking on the outside. I can tell you, as someone who's worked with people for 2 decades, doesn't matter what you're seeing on the outside, people are carrying so much. Which is why I always go on this page about being kind, you know, because we don't know. And so there are times when you can't drop something and you just got to push through it. And we'll get to some tools for that in a moment. But when you've got to push through it, have a think about what are the other things at the moment that can take a pause. What can I hit pause on? What can I stop for now? And if there are some things that you have to do regardless, then how are you going to reset, recharge, and recover at the end of that thing, or go into that thing? As I say to a lot of the kids and the adults I work with, you go in like you've got armor on. If it's really hard, if it's a difficult conversation, if it's a person you have difficulty with, if it's a difficult situation that has to be done, it's unavoidable. Go in with your armor on, going, whatever comes my way is not going to be absorbed in my heart or in my mind. It is what it is, and I will go in and I will protect myself, and I will not allow it inside my heart and mind. I will not absorb. I often talk about the contagion of emotion when we are around others, and anyone in my work talks about the contagion. We've all been talking about it for a good decade or two. But when I talk about this, I remind, if you're caring for others, if you have difficulty in your life, you're going to absorb some negative emotion. You're going to absorb other people's anxiety, other people's worries, other people's angers, jealousies, frustrations. So you've got to go in with armor on. You've got to go, I'm not taking it into me. I'm not wearing it. I'm not carrying it. So be aware of it and then do something afterwards. So with your task shifting, which used to be known as multitasking. So I want you to tell yourself, I'm task shifting. I'm just going from one thing or another. Anything important deserves your full attention. And for me, I can do it with people. I can give people, my children, family, friends, 100% attention. I find that easy. It's when I'm trying to get other things done that I do too much. I multitask. So I want you to try really hard. Remember, it's about small steps every day. Pick one thing. So you might say, I am going to load the dishwasher or drive the car. Or we should be driving the car with our full attention. Drive the car, load the dishwasher, take the walk, talk to somebody today with 100% attention. I am going to put my full attention on nothing but that. And that's how you take micro steps towards stopping the multitasking, or the task shifting, as we're now going to call it. So it's just leaning into it. Right? We just lean into it. We don't go, right, that's it, I'm never going to multitask again. You will multitask again, right? Because you got years, possibly decades to undo of a habit. And it's very hard to be present if you are doing too much. And that's why you need all the other steps to reduce your multitasking. You need the other steps, which is sometimes completing a project by not doing the project. Like going, you know what? This is too many projects. This is too many things that I've agreed to do. And I will lovingly set the boundary and I will move across from it. So that's the first thing for your well-being, is to try and practice being in the moment. Give whatever you're doing full attention. That might be initially 1 minute a day, 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day. We build and build and build. You start from where you're at. So when you see another person who's really good at being present, be inspired by it, and then think, okay, that's not because they're better than me. That's not because of anything, but that they've probably had more practice. And so, like I say to any young person I'm working with, remember, to get good at something, you've got to keep doing it. And that's what well-being is. To get good at well-being, you've got to do well-being every day. Every single day, you've got to keep doing well-being. So that's your first thing. Practice being present. Reduce task shifting. And when you're doing a task, so maybe pick 3 tasks a day. Write it on your fridge for these 3 tasks for the day. I'm going to do them with full presence. I'm not going to answer the phone. I am not going to be and if you've got people that you live with, let them know I'm going to try really hard, unless it's an emergency. If you've got kids, and it depends on what age they're at, that might not work for you. So you might have to pick a time when you're in the car and you just stop the car and you pull over and you spend 3 minutes doing nothing but slow, deep breathing and looking at whatever's out your window and giving it your full attention. Look at the people walking past, the dogs walking past, the birds flying past, the trees swaying, the traffic lights changing. But what you're doing every time you do this is you're neurologically wiring your brain for presence and for giving things your full attention, without looking at your phone, without looking at other things. So that's your first thing. The next thing I want you to remember that's really important is to get comfortable with discomfort and struggle, because discomfort and struggle are really hard. The words make it very clear. Sorry to state the obvious, but again, let's give that some focused attention. When we feel uncomfortable, when we feel emotional, humans who, until we know what to do with discomfort and struggle, we will probably do something that's bad for us. So we will pick anything to avoid the yucky feeling. And so what I want you to think about is, how can you spend some time, and I'll get to your questions too. So if you've got any questions, please pop them in the comment box. I'm almost finished here and I will go through a quick Q&A with you as well. So if you are doing, I've completely forgotten what I was going to say about, yes, discomfort. So because it's uncomfortable, most of us will do something to distract from the emotion and never fully learn to navigate that emotion. So if anger's hard for you, if jealousy's hard for you, if sadness is hard, these are hard for all of us, by the way. They're tough emotions. Anger, frustration, annoyance, jealousy, embarrassment, fear, anxiety. These are such uncomfortable emotions, and every single one of those emotions need our attention. And many of us were born in that generation where EQ was not taught in schools like it is today. So, for me as a mother, I'm so grateful our children learn at school EQ. They learn how to manage emotions. They learn about emotions being normal and healthy, and that they come with extra energy that needs safe passage. We weren't all taught that in our generation. And so it's really, really important that we learn what to do with uncomfortable feelings. So I'm going to just read some bits out for you, because that's how I stay on track, basically. Otherwise, we'll literally be here for 2 days. And I do want to go out and enjoy my kids, and I'm sure you want to go out and do some things. So what page was I on? Page 18. So what I want us to do is look at, how are you going to get comfortable with uncomfortable feelings? So I've got a framework on page 18. I know some of you, by the way, if you haven't got your book, I know a lot of you have ordered them. They're stuck somewhere. This is the time, isn't it, where books are stuck all over the place. I know it's been in print. Some people send me photos going, thank you, I've got it. And I'm working through it. But if you haven't got it and you've ordered it, it's coming. I've only got this one copy of mine, which is here. The rest of them, I know the first lot sold out. So I've got one copy and I'm on page 18, and it's a Get Comfortable with Uncomfortable framework. And this is how it goes. So the the first step to get really good at uncomfortable feelings is get prepared ahead of time. Preparation is crucial for your well-being. So often what we do is in the moment, we think, okay, what do? I just feel awful. Okay, I'm just going to eat something. I'm going to have some chocolate. I'm going to do whatever. And we distract from the emotion. So instead of distracting from the emotion, what we want to think is, all right, well, what are all the things that make me feel uncomfortable? Do I get uncomfortable when I'm bored? Do I get uncomfortable when I feel overwhelmed and stressed? Do I get uncomfortable when I haven't had enough time alone? So write down all the things that make you feel uncomfortable in your own time, or now if you've got a pen and paper. What are the things that make you feel really, really uncomfortable and bring about uncomfortable feelings that are really hard for you to sit with? And then once you've got that list for each of those things, and remember, we're not in the emergency lane. If we're, getting better at well-being, you need to take your time. I want us to do this properly. There's no rush. We've waited this long, most of us. So we want to take this nice and slow. So you write that list and then you pick one thing. What's the one thing I want to get comfortable with? What feeling, what situation do I want to feel comfortable with? And the first step of getting comfortable with uncomfortable from this framework on page 18 is be prepared ahead of time. Know what pushes your buttons. So parents, know what pushes your buttons. And then write down what's pushing your buttons. And then pick one. I'm really all for picking one. Pick that one thing and go, I'm going to get comfortable with the discomfort that comes when that button is pushed. Educators, health professionals, human beings, whatever it is that pushes your buttons, pick one of those things, anyone you like, and then that is what we're using the framework on. And then you just keep doing it until we clean our minds out. Let's just clear them out, and we're going to feel so much better in 6 months, 12 months from now when we've done this work and wired our brains differently. So once you're prepared ahead of time, by knowing what pushes your buttons. Sorry that I'm reading, because otherwise I want to talk about, I'm just going to get off track. So I'm reading. Step 2 is to plan to face the situation that makes you feel uncomfortable consciously. So you're really facing it. You're not resisting it. Here's the thing. If you're a parent and your kid is cracking it and you've got to get out the door, and you're just like, I'm late, I've got to get out of the door. I'm really sorry if I'm not looking in your eyes, by the way. I don't know where the Facebook live camera is. So I don't know where it is. So I hope it's okay for you. So if you're feeling really frustrated and all that's going through your head is, why are they always doing this when we need to go out the door? You are meeting your challenge with resistance. And when you meet something that's happening anyway, it's happening. They're cracking it. You're late. It's happening. If you face that with resistance, you are going to be in a state of anger and frustration and annoyance and all those other uncomfortable feelings. So it's really important, if you're going to learn to get comfortable with uncomfortable feelings, to stop resisting what's happening in front of you. So step 2 is about facing the situation consciously. And then the next part of consciously, my friends, is courageously. We have to have courage to do this. We have to be really understanding that these tools are great and we know they work, but gee, they're hard to use. So go in with courage, face it consciously. My child is losing it. My student is losing it. This person I'm with is uncomfortable. Face it. Accept it. And if it's safe, you know the blurred lines around those things. But generally speaking, we have to meet it with a consciousness and an acceptance that whatever is happening in front of us is happening. And when we look at people who've endured incredible hardship or been in really dangerous situations, they all talk about, survivors will often talk about how they were able to bring themselves back into the moment and slow their minds down, slow their breathing down, and accept what's going on. It's when people go into a state of panic, and that's when fight, flight, freeze occur. And when fight, flight, freeze occur, And I know you know this, but I'm going to remind you anyway. And you can get fight, flight, freeze when your kid, as a parent, is losing it and you're running late. Right? You can go into such a state of stress and anxiety where you're just so overwhelmed that you're experiencing those symptoms of fight, flight, freeze. And what that does is it stops you thinking. So your prefrontal cortex, the thinking bit, it stops. And when that stops, you can't think straight. And then you say and do stuff you will probably regret later on. So it's really important to be conscious of what's happening in front of you and accept it with courage. And once you've done that, the situation occurs. So then you're prepared ahead of time. You've decided you're going to face it consciously. You've accepted what's happening in front of you. You're not meeting it with that state of resistance, which just makes you angry and frustrated and annoyed. And then you don't handle things as well as you want to. And then you notice and name the feelings you're going through. So name it. And this is really important for developing our emotional intelligence, our EQ. We've got to know what to do with our feelings, and it starts with noticing them. You know, feelings and thoughts come with such automaticity that it's very hard to even know what we're feeling. It just feels yuck. And that's why my first question was, how are you feeling? You know, well-being is a state of feeling comfortable. You know, and sometimes that's happy, but sometimes it's just feeling comfortable. And so if you're not feeling comfortable, you've probably got 20 feelings racing through your head. So know what the feeling is, notice it, and name that feeling, and then allow that feeling to be present. Accept it, allow it to be there, and then be brave enough to have your feelings. And then once you've had enough, it's okay to stop. If you're feeling overwhelmed by being in that discomfort, then it's okay for you to stop. But it's just a leaning into it, small steps towards doing this. And then what you need to do is think of a way, and again, you'll need to write these down, to move those feelings through your body. So feelings are like energy in motion, right? And they bring about discomfort. And if you're in fight, flight, freeze, a lot of the time, you'll have this neurochemical fuel pumping through your body that makes you feel you've got to escape, makes you feel like you're in danger. And so when you're trying to run away and get away from things, you're not going to act as well and reasonably as you want to. So that's a start to getting comfortable with uncomfortable. Lean into it. Don't rush yourself. Just learn to accept the feelings you're faced with and learn to get comfortable with them. I'm going to give you a couple more things. I've just realized we've been talking. You're probably like, oh my gosh, Madhavi, we're fully aware you've been talking for 40 minutes. And you said, so I'm going to go for 5 more minutes, I think. Give you a couple more tools, and then I'm going to go into the questions and comments box to see if you've got any questions. So here are some other things that I want you to do. There's on the continuation of that page, if we had time, was resetting with healthy habits. So just really look at what are your new habits? What are some really lovely, healthy things? Ask yourself, what is working for my well-being? What do I love doing? Find your hobbies again, not your hobbies related to being an educator, not the fact that you love making a difference, not the fact that you love that look in a young person's eyes when you've had a breakthrough. If you're a parent, not that, oh my gosh, I nurture and love my children so beautifully. These things are part of our purpose, but they're not our entire purpose. So find your purpose away from the primary roles you carry. Find your hobbies again. Find fun for the sake of fun, not because it's going to make you fit, not because of this reason or that reason. Just find fun for the sake of fun. So write that down, fun for the sake of fun. Find things that bring you purpose and joy that are not about caring for others. Your purpose, your joy, your self-care. Self-compassion. How can you treat yourself with the same compassion you treat others? I always say this to parents, educators, children I work with, because I work right across that spectrum in my work, is what would you do if your best friend was going through this? You would not be talking to your best friend like this. You would be supporting them and encouraging them and loving them, helping them have rest, helping them with their kids or whatever other responsibilities they're juggling. So how do we start doing this for ourselves? Celebrate how far you've come. You know, it's really hard when you're busy to reflect back on all of the great things in your life. So there's 2 parts to this. One is take a moment sometime today to look back on all the things you're proud of in your life and write a massive list and think about how can you celebrate that. So all the different things you've done that you're proud of that you've already done, write that list and celebrate it. Why is this important for your well-being? Because it takes you back. It reminds you what's good, and that's the second part of this wellbeing tool, which you all know about, and so many of us have known about for a very long time but find very hard to practice, is that daily what is actually going well in your life. You know, because there is always something that's going well in our life, and you know, we're wired to look out for the next thing and what the problems are in our environment. And if you're caring for others, if your roles and responsibilities in your life involve juggling other people's stuff, then naturally it's really hard to focus on the things that you are that are going well and that are working for you. So write a big long list of what's working for my well-being and do more of that, whether it's one fraction more. Remember, we're leaning into well-being. We're taking small practical steps every day, and we're just picking small goals, right? We can spend the next 6 to 12 months cleaning this clutter out, and we don't need to grab all the tools in one go. Just pick the bits you like and roll with those, and I'll come back on and teach you some more when I get a chance. So once you've picked that thing and you've identified that thing, then you go, all right, well, I'm glad this happened today. This went well today. And that's all gratitude practice is. It's finding 3 things that went well every single day. And if we can do that in those moments that we're stressed, when we're thinking, oh my gosh, there's so much I've got to do, or, you know, some of the parents that I'm working with and educators that I'm working with, they don't even know where to start. They don't even know what's going on in their head. There's so much. So I always start with, well, let's look at what's working. Where are you thriving? You know, when I'm working with a family who needs a reset because they're in emotional disarray for a bunch of reasons they couldn't have seen coming, but sometimes that's where families find themselves, and I'm like, all right, we're going to reset your family, and the first thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on where you guys are thriving. Where does this family connect? Where is the joy? Where are you thriving? And let's build from there, rather than focusing, you know, for those of you who are educators, who are parents, who care for people who struggle. You know, for me in my work, it's often caring for parents who have children on the autism spectrum or with learning difficulties or other challenges in their lives. And what that means is, you know, when they come to seek help, it's like, I'm here to find a solution to the problems, but that can keep us in a state of mind that is always focused on our problems. And that's so hard for so many families that I work with. So I remind them, let's also focus on what's actually working. What is going well for this family? What works for this family? How do we do more of that? How do we bring our mind back to that in those moments we're feeling a little hopeless and helpless and don't know what to do? Gee, I'm so happy I haven't been interrupted yet. I can't even hear the bouncing balls in the background of our kids playing outside. So they're being super, super quiet. They do get this live thing. They probably just don't want to be live with me. So reset with those healthy habits, daily achievement celebration. So practice what's going well. Focus on where you're thriving. Focus on gratitude as much as possible. Practice self-compassion. Avoid making big decisions under pressure. And oh my goodness, didn't the pandemic do that in education? Beautiful people. Have a lovely holiday, Lydia. I can see you're off to have holiday fun. Enjoy. I love school holidays, so enjoy yourself, and it's lovely to see you here. And thanks for joining me. So the last couple of tips are avoid making big decisions under pressure. And here's all you need to say. If you feel under pressure in that moment, like we did during the pandemic, and we all had to learn how to do online counselling, and for me it's counselling and public speaking, and working with kids and families. For you in education, it's teaching an online curriculum. The pressure was just enormous. So just boom, 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 figure it all out, make some decisions. And one thing for our well-being is we want to avoid making big decisions under pressure. And all you need to say is, I need to think about that. I need some time to get my head around that. Or, I don't know. I say that in talks all the time. When I'm giving a presentation, I'm not going to kind of have a crack at an answer that could be unhelpful to my audience. So I'm really comfortable with saying, I don't know. How can I possibly know, even if I'm speaking on a topic that I've worked in and written about for decades? I just say I don't know if I don't know. So get brave with that. use one of my favorite lines. I need time to think about that. And that's a good parenting tool. You know, when your kids are going, can I do this? Can I do that? I want to do this. And it's just like, I'll think about that. I need to think about that. And that doesn't mean they go, okay, sure, I'll just give you 10 minutes now to process that. They may keep badgering you and asking you, but you're getting them to also practice waiting. And it's the same with our students. I need time to think about that. Next time I'm going to come on it and I'm going to do, this is in my book and you can find them online, a loving kindness meditation. So I'm just going to do a live and we're going to do that together. And slowly when I get time, I will just give you as many tools and things that I can. Thank you for joining me. I'm going to go through the comments box. If you're looking for super easy, my publisher's been beautiful. This book is out now, Educator Wellbeing. It's basically parent wellbeing, health professional wellbeing, human wellbeing. So if you're looking for some easy tools, I managed to get this one at a really great price point as well, so it's half the cost of my other publications, my other books. So positivemindsaustralia.com.au has got lots of free resources and my books, and you can also get them around the world through Amazon and other booksellers. You might get a better deal than I can get for you, so have a look there. Thank you for joining me. I can see that there are some comments. I'm going to go through them. If you've got any questions, if you want any tools, if I have an answer, I will tell you. And if I don't, I'll say I don't know, because that's a good wellbeing tool. So I'm looking through. Thanks, Kerry, for letting me know it's all working. Great, Yvonne. I hope that's helped you with your multitasking or task shifting to start focusing on different things. Creating space for the present moment and acknowledging it. And remember, we just do it one step at a time. I can't see any other comments there, so I'm going to let you all go. I don't see anyone asking anything there. Thank you for joining me for the last 3/4 of an hour. I hope, something came up. Just a thank you. It's my pleasure, Yvonne. Thank you. And thank you all for joining me. Feel free to continue to comment. This will go up onto the YouTube channel so you can watch it again later or share it with other people. The YouTube channel is not under Positive Minds Australia, by the way. It's under Madhavi Nawana Parker. And I put lots when I can. So working parent and work school hours. So when my kids are home from school, I'm with them. So I can only work within those daily hours, and once they're in bed as well. And I'm trying to do much less of that unless I'm writing, because writing is a passion of mine. So it's also kind of a pastime. It's my pleasure, Liana. Thank you for joining me. So on that YouTube channel, there's lots of tips for parents, for educators, and for human beings. As I always say, this is stuff for us. I wish you all the well as you lean into your well-being. I'd love you to join me on social media, wherever I am, and have the most beautiful rest of the day. I'm going to go and hang out with my kids now. Thanks a lot. See ya. I'm going to end this now.